Avery, whose show is this? And we're recorded. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, senior Lakers insider and lead content creator for the Lakers for Offside. And today on the show is a special one. First, I recorded a discussion with Jason Concepcion. He's one of my colleagues at Offside. He hosts everything from X-Ray Vision to hopefully sometime soon getting back to recording 6 trophies with Shay Serrano, who, by the way, is the second half of this episode. Legitimately not planned. That's just how this worked out. But in the first part, or the first half of the episode, Jason and I get together. He was at last night's Spurs game, so he and I talk about that experience, what he saw from there, what he thinks of the Lakers. We also talk about his New York Knicks, and then just kind of have fun throughout all of it. And then, like I said, the second half of the show is a conversation between myself and Shea Serrano, who has a brand new book out called Expensive Basketball. I cannot advise for you guys to go out and get this book any stronger than I can any other book. He is my favorite basketball writer, frankly. His ability to drop a phrase and then also just return back to very casual lingo is really good. We had a very wide-ranging conversation about the writing of the book, about the players that he talks about in it, and he and I are roughly the same age, I believe, so we both love a lot of the same era of the NBA, so or just basketball in general. So we talk about that, and then we also talk a little bit about Wemby, and we talk a little bit about last night's game between the Spurs and the Lakers, and where Wemby can maybe or will have to grow as a player. So that also is really fun. I've already rambled enough. I'm going to go ahead and throw to the first half of this episode. I'm going to break these up. So these are both going to be separate episodes here of the lounge, both on YouTube and on the RSS feed. So check out these shows however you prefer. Again, hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. Please hit that share button. Tell your friends about the show. We're trying to do big things here on this channel. So the more that it grows, the more fun that we could possibly have. Without any further ado, here's Jason Concepcion first, and then Shay Serrano second. All right, joined now by somebody I have followed and just loved his work for years and years and years and years and years. Somebody I'm thrilled to have on the pod. Somebody I was supposed to have on the pod years ago, but fell through at the last second because schedules just didn't line up. Jason Concepcion of X-Ray Vision. He is a colleague of mine now at Offside and is hopefully bringing back some version of 6 trophies soon. You were at the game last night, man. I'm thrilled to have you on the pod. Thank you very much for hopping on.
I was. Thank you for having me. Delighted to finally be able to do this. And yeah, what an experience last night. It was a super competitive game, very fun game. Incredible to see Wemby in person. It was just super fun.
He is like watching CGI.
It's crazy.
Like so I've been covering the Lakers now for about 12-ish years or so, 12, 13 years. And, been in scrubs, been in practices, been at games and stuff. And it's always funny to see NBA players next to regular human beings because they are Avengers. They look like Avengers. And then it's also super weird to see an NBA player who makes NBA players look like us. And that's exactly what it feels like watching Wemby. And that wasn't even like a great Wemby game. It was super choppy. He was in foul trouble. Luka was in foul trouble. I thought the refereeing was really bad on both sides last night. But
I agree.
Yeah, what was watching Wemby like? That was your first time?
It was my first time seeing him in person, and it's nuts because in a sport populated by massive individuals, he is noticeably more massive than all of them. and the way he moves, the way the other players react to him as he moves is, you can register, especially early in the game, you can really register the holy Jesus, like on the other players' faces, just being like, whoa, oh my,
Yeah.
wow, this guy is that big. And he's so mobile for the size too. He was jumping around, jumping through the lane. And watching players watch him, react to him, try and track when they're on offense, like, where is it? Can he get to me from there?
Yeah.
Is
I can't see him. Oh God.
is incredible. And also, this is he had a down game against the Suns where you could argue, is it a down game or did they do something? They were putting smaller guys on him and kind of swarming him early before he can get to like spots that he wants. And the Lakers felt like they kind of did that, and they bothered him. He got in foul trouble. It was, honestly, he could have fouled out earlier. Like there was a couple of calls that were like bang bang and went his way, and but still, it was an absolute show. I mean, watching him move around, do all this stuff, it's a show.
I think Jake LaRavia, before he got into bed last night, was like, "Wait, is Wemby here?"
Yeah, I think so.
There was a few plays where, and he wasn't alone in this, but he was the most notable, where he was driving to the basket and Wemby like rotates over and like he's like, "Oh fuck, what the?"
Yeah.
And then he like forced to make passes that, he had a couple turnovers, and the Lakers in general, like there were a couple grenade shots that Luka had to take late because the Lakers were drive to the basket and they were used to being able to shoot even floaters. And it's really crazy to see somebody as big as Ayton, and he does them naturally anyway because he's like skilled enough to do it. But it's crazy to see somebody as big as DeAndre Ayton have to shoot a floater.
He's got to do it. Yes.
It's like no choice. There was one shot where he like shot the floater. He's like, I have to shoot it here. Here we go. And Wemby, I think, was kind of taken by surprise because nobody had shot around him all game. And the ball winds up going in, and you could kind of see Ayton because like my favorite thing watching Ayton this year is he's one of those guys who people find hilarious. And he has no idea why. And like he'll say funny things and people will laugh in the room, and then he'll ask somebody who was in the room, "Hey, what? What was funny?" And he had like on that floater shot, you see him kind of going back on defense, and he's kind of like, "Man, all right, that went in." And he's like zero poker face whatsoever. It's crazy to see. And look, on the other side of it, you had Luka, who is responsible for some like truly incredible production. He's doing things that Lakers haven't done before, and the Lakers have a pretty solid track record of individual performances. It was one of those like quiet production games from Luka. What did you see from him out there?
That's the exact way to put it, because like sometime in the second quarter, whenever Bronny came in, right? I remember looking up at the board and thinking, the Lakers are within touching distance. This is a good game. And you feel like Luka's been doing stuff. He obviously always has the ball, but maybe it's his deftness with the pass and just his feel for the team. You kind of feel like, my feeling was like, he hasn't done anything to stand out. And I look up and it's this, I don't know, late first, second quarter sometime. And he's got like 12, like 6 and 4 or whatever. And you're like, oh, okay, never mind. Like Luka's actually, like, he's killing it. And then by halftime, like, it's obvious he's having a great game. But yeah, to your point, he's just so kind of integrated into the flow of the team, and they're so plugged into the way he moves. His ability to get guys looks, whether it, around the basket and around the perimeter, is so smooth and feels so within the flow of the team. And the way he doesn't seem to, people always talk about Jokic and the way that you can't speed him up. And it's the same thing with Luka, where he moves at his own speed. He's so big and strong. Guys can't really affect him. And so he appears to be gliding at times out there, and you don't really notice, like, oh my God, he's having a great game. And he had a great game. I will say, first time seeing him in person. And obviously, if you watch him on TV, you're thinking, oh, this guy complains a lot. In person, because, the camera's not tracking him the entire game.
Yeah.
He's in the ref's ass the entire fucking game. And do you remember the play early? First half sometime, I want to say first quarter, he goes to the basket and thought he got fouled and did the classic, big, fist bump, a foot from the ref. And the ref put his hands out yo, I really don't want to tech you right now. Just calm down.
Really early, Luka.
And he kept that up all game. You mentioned the fouls where it was kind of a very roughly officiated game. And Luka was letting him know the entire fucking game. At one point, Wemby took technical fouls, and the entire time, Luka is turned towards the ref on the sideline and just are you fucking serious? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
What is happening here? And it's the whole game. It's wow.
The refereeing was funny last night because I thought were really bad. And I feel like they knew it because the only T that they gave was to Marcus Smart. You had JJ Redick lighting him up for 30 seconds on the sideline because they wouldn't review one of the fouls that Redick wanted reviewed on Wemby. You mentioned normally the violent swing like that Luka gave. Yeah. That's usually an auto T. That's
auto
usually
T. He was right in his face when he did it.
But I think the referee didn't give him the T because he's like, yeah, I know, I probably should have called that because on that play it was the Harrison Barnes pushing the back, right?
That's right.
It was in transition. Luka missed a layup, and it was clear it was one of those plays that the referee was waiting to see if the ball was going to go through to make the call, and then he, Luka misses the layup, and then he freaks out like that, and it was both ways. I thought the Spurs weren't really happy with the, there was 84 free throws, and
that's crazy, and it felt like it.
Yeah, it should have been the Luka Wemby show, and it just turned into a free throw competition. It was kind of a bummer how that played out. The thing with Luka, he reminds me of I remember watching a really early nature documentary, and they were talking about the geese that fly at really high altitudes, and the narrator is like, I can't believe these things have the vocal capacity to be this high above the ground, and they're flying this far, and they're still squawking at each other. And I feel like I watched Luka play, and it's this guy, his hair's not done. He looks like he has bedhead. He just threw his uniform on. He looks so tired and upset, and he just squawks the whole game. It's just really kind of crazy. The thing that really kind of caught me watching this game, I think San Antonio is going to be good. I think
they're going to be good. They're going to be good.
Their defense is really intense, and I think they have all of these guys who are in that 6'4" to 6'6", 6'7" range, who are all physical and athletic and stuff. And I think their defense is legit, and I think they'll wind up being a playoff or play-in team eventually. I could just see it though, while I was watching, because the Lakers kind of did a lot of what OKC did to Jokic and what Phoenix did to Wemby the night before, where they basically had somebody front Wemby, and then the guy that they had on him, Ayton really hardly guarded him last night. It was Rui and Smart and Vando and LaRavia at times. Dalton Connect hilariously.
Yeah.
Did Wemby seem as bothered by the people down around his knees and ankles as he seemed to be last night in the game before? Because that seems to me like the way to make him uncomfortable now.
Yeah, it did. And I think coming off the heels of the Suns game, it being literally back, the next game, you do wonder, I think we're going to see this, I think you can't outsize him. So watching teams kind of just get into his space before he is eager to have them there, beating him to micro spots, getting to him before he can turn. It did seem to bother him. I think you looked up and he had 7 or 9 points or something at the half. So, obviously in foul trouble, and he had 3 by the mid-second quarter. He was in trouble the whole game. But it did seem to bother him. There were moments where he got loose, where he could, get something from the free throw line in. this I appreciate from him. Like, he could gun a lot more. He could shoot
I thought he needed to
threes.
be more aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah, he could really throw up an early three if he wanted to get to kind of loosen up the defensive spacing on him. And he doesn't. He really seemed to be trying to get the offense working around him in that kind of Jokic way. And so I respect that from him. But I definitely got the sense like he could do more. Like, he could try and go earlier. He could try and shoot more from outside, face up earlier. And it's almost a testament to him in terms of seeing what his team can do around him that he doesn't force it like that.
Yeah.
And let's see what happens when Fox comes back. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they're going to be good. They're huge. They're a deep team. You know, having Harrison Barnes like come off the bench like is huge. And I think they're going to be a force. But yeah, I think Wemby is going to have to deal with this new look now. This and speed, guys trying to really run him too on the other end.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminded me of, so I grew up in Southern California, played basketball in like high school and stuff, nothing all that serious, but I'm 5'10", and by Southern California basketball standards, that's short. I was easily the shortest guy on my high school team. I'm also, my mom is from El Paso, so I'm half white, half Mexican, and I would go back to El Paso and I would be the center out there because all of my family is like 5'1", 5'2". And I remember like, you know, my, you know, I would go and play at the Y and stuff like that. And my family in these games, they would have me play center. And I would have these guys who were like playing at my knees and at my ankles. And I didn't like it. I didn't like that sensation. I was used to being a guard and having space out there. And if I did get into a clutter, it was kind of on my own terms if I wanted to drive. But with like Wemby, I was watching him and it just really felt like he was just constantly like, just get off of my ankles, like stop. And I do think that's something that he's going to have to get a little bit more accustomed to, because there is no, it's like with Golden State, you're not going to go small against Golden State and win. You're not going to go big against Wemby and win.
Yeah, you just can't. And he can do things. I mean, listen, late in that game where after Smart, you know, had that crazy braid fart and stepping on the line and trying to pass it in, and it was, you know, under 2 seconds, under a second at 1.4, I believe. That's the guy. Like, if they could have had him, perfect time to lob and tip it in. Fortunately, it wasn't there. But yeah, I agree with you. It's it seems like it's bothering him a little. And the fact that the guard play around him is not quite ready to take the load off him all the way. I think Castle is going to be really good. I like Vassell. Like, I think Champagny, I think his first game back right after a little while. So, but they're not quite ready to really take the load off him in those moments. Means that he's going to be seeing a lot of this, because really at this point it appears to be the one thing that can work.
Yeah. I'm just gonna ask the ESPN question based on what you saw there. Do you think the Lakers are legit? They're currently at 7-2 and somehow one game behind the Oklahoma City Thunder without LeBron and all this stuff. Like, what did you see from a more outsider's perspective? I watch this team every night, and I watch the league obviously in general, but I have a singular kind of focus on the Lakers. I think they're pretty good. I think they might be, but where do you stand on them?
I think that I don't think they're going to be the number 2 team in the West. Okay. But I think they're better than we thought.
Yeah.
I think that they're really trying on defense, and if they can stay around league average, maybe a little above, with the way they can score. I mean, Reeves is like, it's not an outlier anymore. Like, he didn't play last night, but Reeves is like legit, like a plus offensive player in the league. And of course they're doing this without LeBron. I think that they're really, like, offensively, I think that they're really good. Really good. Laravia gives them, and here's my other theory. I think American whites look at JJ Redick like he's Jesus Christ, and they will run through a fucking wall for him.
Yeah.
We were talking about this at the game last night. Like, American white guards it's him. Like last 30 years, it's fucking JJ Redick is the guy.
It'd be like if JJ was like coached by Mark Price, like early in his career. Yeah.
So it's like Connect, Laravia, Austin Reeves. They look at this guy like he can, take them to the promised land, take them to the next level. And I think Laravia had a weird game, but has been awesome this season. Connect too has been a really impact guy in moments. And I think they're legit. I think they're legit. Like, I think they're like I wouldn't be surprised to see them with like home court in the opening round of the playoffs. Like I think they can be good. Health is going to be an issue. And again, they've got to stay in this. They can't be terrible in defense. They've just got to be good enough. And I think Smart gives them an edge that they need, a physical edge on defense.
Totally agree.
I mean, whether he's just a guy that can infuriate the other team, whether it's the tactical flopping at just the right moment. He had some good ones down the stretch last night in crunch time. And also that feeling of like, he's kind of in that stage that Dwight Howard was when he came to the Lakers, which is he might hurt a guy, he might just grab Steph Curry's shoulder and like rip it out. And that discombobulates the team, like teams. Like he gives them that physical edge, and then the rest of the guys just trying really hard around him has been enough. And I think that that's sustainable, particularly, when you're seeing them do it, not full strength for a lot of this early part of the season, whether it's Luka out, whether it's Reeves out, and LeBron clearly. So yeah, I think that they're good.
Yeah, the smart thing, I always think that there's value to having somebody on your team that at any moment the other team's a little nervous around. Yes. It's like you watch teams play against the Detroit Pistons, and at any moment, Beef Stew could just haul off and knock the crap out of it. And everybody who plays the Pistons is always just kind of like, we're okay. It's like anybody who plays against the Golden State Warriors, like everybody on the other team has to wear a cup because of Draymond Green. Like it's just it's that level of physicality matters. And then I also think like for the last few years, the Lakers, they haven't really had a defensive tone setter in terms of energy. You had AD, who was like all-world defender and all of that stuff, but he was so talented defensively that he could at times make it look easy. Marcus Smart makes nothing at all look easy. Yeah. Like everything that Marcus Smart does looks like he has to try as hard as he possibly can to do. He had a wide open layup last night that he took on the wrong side of the hoop for no reason whatsoever. And it was like, you make that so much more difficult than you have to. But I think like having a defender who actually has to work his ass off, I think is something that the Lakers have really kind of missed. And that actually kind of is a good segue to your Knicks because like that's what Josh Hart brings to the table. That's what OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges would bring to the table if they were on a team like this, right? Like the Knicks to me are a really interesting team in that like they made this big deal of kind of moving away from Tibbs ball and opening up their rotation and getting away from Jalen Brunson ball and all these things. And they're kind of looking at the Green Goblin mask now at this point in the season.
And like whispering to them.
Yeah. They're like 7-guy rotation. Yeah. What's the Knicks season been like from your perspective?
It's been choppy, which I think was to be expected. I would not listen. It's been 2 great wins.
Beat the crap
over the Bulls over the Bulls after getting probably the most embarrassing loss of the early season in Cup play. Right, come back, beat them with a good all around team game and a push in the second half, and then. On Anthony Edwards' first night back, he was a little off, but still in the lineup. Anthony Edwards back in the lineup and just shellac the Timberwolves when Randall and DiVincenzo had good games. And it was kind of the thing that it is very similar to the Lakers in that defensively, it's unclear right now what the identity really is going to be. but you hope that guys are trying really hard. Obviously, you have tone setters in OG, who was probably the best player on the floor for the Knicks last night, and you have Bridges, and then you have two big holes in Cat and Brunson, and everybody else. You're just trying to work around various permutations of that. But if they can be league average and a little bit better and really unleash their offense, which they did last night, then it can be really exciting. And I think, Brunson had 10 assists last night, and you could really see in that second half the flashes of what could be if Brunson, with all the attention that he gets, can also unlock that kind of pick and pop game, spraying it to the corners, to guys at just the right moments when the double comes. The pick and roll with Cat, who was awesome last night and was really picking his spots, a couple of dumb fouls notwithstanding. I'm excited by what I'm seeing right now, especially against the Timberwolves. Have been up and down, but that's still a good team with Anthony Edwards out there. And I'm excited. I don't know. The East is obviously complete dog shit. Just utter garbage. It's, teams that we thought could be in the mix, like the Hawks. Now you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Yeah, Orlando is like, the amount of effort they have to put in to try and score if their first action doesn't work it's honestly too tiring for me to watch sometimes. And so it's really the Knicks and the Cavs. And the hope is the Knicks can get their act together early. And these last two wins, some momentum, I hope. And, it looks like guys are really buying into what Mike Brown is preaching, which is quick decisions, move the ball, don't let the defense set against a clear ISO. And it seems to be, at least last night, especially in the second half, it seems to be working.
The Tibbs thing was really interesting. Like,
it was.
On one hand, it's like he got them to the Eastern Conference Finals. They finally have a culture. They finally have an identity. It's an identity that really fits in with how New York sees basketball, right? This gritty. If you play at Rucker, it's always too cold and windy to play, to like shoot, right? So like spacing isn't really a thing that New Yorkers have ever really cared about. And it really resonated with the city. It brought about Bing Bong and all those things. And yet I kind of understood why they fired him. Like, I kind of got that they kind of looked at that team and maybe saw a bit of a ceiling. Where did you stand on firing Tibbs and bringing in Mike Brown?
I thought it was the right move. I thought that you're right in that by just looking at the situation, you could easily make the case that Tibbs deserved another year, easily. But there were just certain things that made you go, okay, maybe we've hit the limit with this guy. And the rotation is one of them. I think we've seen in the last few years how important depth is. Indiana, just the way they run you, they're going to be there if you're going to be a good team in the East. Oklahoma City, the way they just seem to have like guys like falling out of their ears who can give them
some new guy.
There's some new guy that can give them 8-10 minutes and do numbers and so the Knicks ran out their starting lineup for the most minutes in the entire league. And I think the most minutes of any starting lineup, like in the last 15 years, something crazy at basically like a -5, for the season. So they were leaking water basically from January on. And while I agree with Tibbs' idea that this is probably the best way for us to win, at some point you're going to need to know what the rest of the guys on the roster are going to give you. And the time to find that out is during the season, not in the playoffs. And the fact that Tibbs, with a gun to his head, was like, okay, let's open up the lineup. Okay, let's try switching, which we've never done before, but let's do it here, like in the middle of the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's less systematic than I think clearly the Knicks wanted. And I also think that there was a personnel there were some personality issues in that. Watching Bridges this year, it's been impossible to not notice how energetic and enthused he seems compared to the dog days in the middle of the regular season when it was clear that his job on the team was not one that he necessarily was enthusiastic about, and his job was basically, hey, on defense, you guard the point of attack, you guard the most dangerous guy, chase him around because Cat and Brunson are negatives on defense. So that's you. And then on offense, we're never going to call anything for you. Be ready for that grenade in the, on the perimeter. And when you get it, I don't know, just figure it out. And it's not really that fun,
And you're not going to have legs because you've been chasing around Steph all game for some reason.
Yes. And so it's nice to see some of these kind of notes that were overhangs from the Tibbs era to start to be addressed and start to bear fruit. And start to know, like, if guys what can guys give us? Like, Kolek has kind of worked his way out of the rotation, but he's earned his way out of the rotation. You know what I mean? And we're starting to see Deuce in more different permutations. And I think, when he's on the floor to give us another shooter or scorer like that, just good things happen. And so I'm excited. I'm enthusiastic. Do I think that they can? I think they can make the finals. I can imagine a world in which that happens.
Any team in the East that can walk and chew gum at the same time, I would say, yes. I can see you in the finals. Yeah,
I completely agree, and I think that they're ahead of the curve on that. Plus the fact that they've been together a little while and their core gives them some continuity. And then if you get into the finals, anything can happen. Obviously, they'd be the underdog against any team that you could imagine emerging from the West, but anything can happen. So I'm positive.
The thing that always drove me nuts about Tibbs is I've always thought that the 82 game regular season is a time for you to try shit out and, press different buttons. And it might cost you a win here and there. And you might pick up an extra loss here and there. But like, you want to exit the regular season with as much data as you can possibly have so that when it comes time to throw a different pitch in the postseason, you've thrown it before. And that was always, to me, the ceiling that Tibbs teams ran up against in the postseason, is that like they were good regular season teams because they spammed the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. But then when they were forced to throw a different pitch, they were like, what's a change up? And I think it was the right move. And I'm with you that I could see the Knicks making it out of the East. I could see them actually trying things out, finding some combinations that you might not have thought of heading into the season and seeing what happens in the Eastern finals and the actual finals if they get there. I do have to ask you about the Giannis thing though, because like in covering the Lakers and following this team, Rob Pelinka, like the doomsday scenario to the Lakers front office would be Star X says that they want to be a Laker and only a Laker, and they don't have the assets to trade for Star X. And that exact thing seems to have kind of played out here for the Knicks. How did that report land on your doorstep?
Well, first of all, excitement that a player of Giannis's stature would want to come there.
That is progress, because years past that wasn't the case.
It's been guys saying pretty emphatically, no, I don't want to go there. And by the way, rightfully so, because the Knicks were a dumpster fire for a long time, and this is where you have to give Tibbs his flowers. He really did change the culture and turn them into a professional team. So you feel good because Giannis is like at worst the fourth best player in the league, like at worst. Yeah. At the same time, I'm okay with seeing what we have right now. I think part of that is simply PTSD from the Melo trade, where we had something good with built around Amari with Raymond Felton when he was good for the Knicks, and a bunch of other pieces around him. And
Gallinari was hugely popular.
Gallinari was good. That kind of shifty, weird gait where you're like, you don't know if he's falling down or if he's driving, and it
Yeah.
threw people off. Good enough shooter at that time, and to kind of, and Mozgov had just like had like a 30-20 game. Like it was, seemed like a guy. And to kind of blow that all up and then not have the juice to make a run with Melo on the team, it was disheartening. And obviously for the Knicks, it would take a third team and maybe a fourth, and then you wonder what they would have left after that. And I just feel like we haven't really seen what this core can do yet. And I'd like to see it rather than try and blow it up to pair whoever's left after that with Giannis, as good as Giannis is. So I felt good about it, but I also felt good that it didn't happen.
This is kind of the perfect year for that to be the case, in that, like, this is, like, if you can't get out of the East, this core's not it, like it. And then at that point, maybe Giannis isn't also able to get out of the East, or he does get out of the East and he gets boat raced in the finals by OKC or whoever's there waiting for him. And he looks around and he says, okay, it's time for the next thing. And yeah, I could see I could see the optimism there, that like, it's not like, after that ordeal, Giannis is now not going to want to play for the Knicks like that. I don't think he would all of a sudden, about face in that sense. But it would still sting. Like that would, if it were the Lakers that were at the top of that list, and we were to find out that, like, yeah, the Lakers only have one first round pick and nobody wants Dalton Connect, I'd be like, okay.
Well,
All right.
I have to ask you, the Luka trade. I got that news. I live in LA. I was out having a late dinner. It was like 9:30, 10 p.m. almost. And I got that news and literally did not. I was like, is this Centel? Like, please triple, double check that this is real. What was your reaction? Because it's like it's still thinking about it now.
Yeah.
It's one of the most stunning things that has happened in the NBA and in sports in general in like the last 15 years. It's crazy that happened.
It was a fight night. So I had a lot of my Mexican family over to watch. I forget who was fighting, and we were going at it. Like, when the news hit and I had to record an emergency podcast, I was hammered. And I asked Harrison, I was like, hey man, do you want to come on the pod and just help me out? Because we've been drinking during all of these fights. Like, what am I supposed to do? We were, and he was like, he was hesitant for his own reasons too. So we were all like, and I remember texting the people that I know in the Lakers organization, and even they were like, we're in the dark. We had no idea. And they, now it turns out like one person lied outright and was like, this has been, this has been a thing for a couple of weeks now and stuff, and information about it has trickled out. But yeah, that was insane. And the thing that I will never forget about it was, and I think this really endeared him to the Lakers fan base, because I think the Lakers fan base really likes genuine stars. Luka was pissed. Like, Luka was devastated
Clearly,
to be traded. And I really respected the fact that at his like intro presser, it looked like somebody had just John Wicked his dog, and I think, to go from that, and then you see the amount of like excitement that he has this like bromance with Austin Reeves that's been kind of fun to track.
It's very cute. Yeah.
There was a moment last night where like Luka he had subbed out of the game, and Austin was sitting in like the spot that Luka would normally sit on the bench. And Luka like goes to Austin, and Austin's like, oh, do you want my seat? And Luka goes like, yeah. And Austin's like, no. And, and they're just like, they're just like messing around on the bench. And so, yeah, like I'll never, parts of it, frankly, I don't really remember, but like I will never forget getting that Shams thing, and even Shams being like, I swear I have not been hacked. This is a real trade. It's just crazy. Absolutely nuts.
Now, I will say this.
And Nico,
Seeing,
I live out here in Texas.
mean,
Nico is like the least popular person in a state with freaking Jerry Jones, who has been trading away Micah Parsons and has made the Dallas Cowboys this joke. Nico Harrison is easily the least popular person in the state.
I mean, this is why. Listen, Rob has taken his hits, and I think rightfully so at times, right? But when it comes to like a face-to-face deal, schmoozing, clearly that those agent skills came out, and it was, you got to hand it to him, because this is like he lifted the guy's wallet from out of his jacket. You know what I mean? Just like,
yeah, all right, we'll take Luka, but also we can't talk to him about an extension, so therefore we can't trade you everything.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I can't
do that. I can't do it. I can't. Like, how can I do that? I can't. I don't know.
He knew the whole time that like Luka would totally extend. Like this summer, there was no drama, and it was just for Rob, and that's a friend of his, by the way. Nico was like the guy that he considers. Just didn't say. I don't know if I went to Dallas because I live out here, and I drove out to Dallas for Luka's first game in Dallas. And it was insane to watch Rob holding court at center court of, what is it, the American Airlines Center?
The American Airlines, yeah.
You have Nico in the tunnel, like hiding from people. And you have Rob at center court of his house just being like, yeah, come on out. Come on, let's chat. All this stuff. That was and then you had Mavericks fans rooting for the Lakers in a game in Dallas.
I mean, for me, an incredible indicator of like how unique this deal was when, Rob's introduction to the press conference for Luka, when Rob thanked Nico. When's that? I can't remember that happening recently, where where a GM thanks another GM for a trade, and it was like, this is crazy. I can't believe it. Was like, I just, thanks to Nico and his team, and great, it's incredible. Like,
what do you think Nico does
working
there?
With them?
Do you think Nico says you're welcome?
And it just an amazing thing. An amazing thing. And now Luka, you're seeing like a fully engaged Luka. Although I will say, I think that, I think the men's health spread, I think it was a little kinder. He looks better.
Yeah.
But it's nowhere near as dramatic as the men's health spread made it look.
Oh,
like
totally.
He looks better, but not that like that.
Luka is one of those guys whose hairdo really matters.
I agree with you.
When he starts games and it's all done up, you're like, oh, okay. And then he finishes games and it looks all matted and out of place. You're like, Luka, let's find some like extra firm gel for next time.
Yeah.
Jason, this has been an absolute blast.
It's been so
really
fun.
Appreciate you hopping on, and I'm really excited about Offside, man. This has been really, really fun so far. Really great collection of creators and people behind the scenes as well.
Yeah.
I'll get out of the way because you were on on the team first. What all would you say we're trying to build?
We're trying to build an app experience for sports fans that's created by creators who are sports fans, who have a big say in like just the way it will work and the how the UI flows, the whole experience of it. And it's been really that part of it has been a really fun learning experience, just to try and figure out like, okay, what if I could start from scratch and like, and what would I want from an app? And part of the thing that it's trying to solve for is, the fragmentation of the sports, a media space. how hard it is sometimes to be like, okay, which the Lakers-Spurs just ended? What happened in the game? I've got to wait for the gamer to go up at ESPN, and I've got to see if I can get clips from somewhere, and then let me check. Let me go on X and see if anybody's got clips there. Let me go on Blue Sky, see if anybody's got clips there. I'll go to Instagram. And the goal is to kind of centralize all those things with cool creators and an app that gives people the things that they want, whether that's stats, whether that's highlights, whether that's analysis, whether that's stats analysis or kind of funny analysis, whatever it is, all in a centralized place. So that's what we're doing, and it's been really fun to kind of watch this process unfold. It's amazing, how smart people are behind the scenes, the people who are like actually doing like the hard stuff of like building the thing.
Yeah.
But it's been fun, and it's been really cool to do it with you.
Yeah, it's been it's awesome to be given this opportunity to like get a bit of a blank check creatively.
Yeah.
And Dave and Jay, like if we have an idea, it's not just it's not just patronizing. Yeah, go for it. There's
Yeah.
some guidance if they feel like they're and I think it's led to a really cool experience. So so those of you who are interested, offside.gg is where you could find information on it. And that's where I am. That's where Jason is. Our mutual friend Kirk is there, losing his mind every
Yeah.
night because
Losing
the
his
trade
poor
that we
guy.
just finished the last the 50 minutes talking about. It's been really fun, and you also host X-Ray Vision with Rosie,
Yes.
and that is my favorite pop culture podcast.
Oh, I
That's
appreciate
excellent
that.
as well. And then hopefully soon, Six Trophies or some version of Six Trophies will
Yeah.
hopefully be coming back with you and Shay, and I can't wait for that as well. But
Yeah, some other projects to announce soon, but yeah, thanks so much for having me here. This has been super fun.
all right, now joined by somebody whose work I have absolutely loved from the first time I saw this dude tweeting about anything really, and especially like the stuff that anytime you release something and you were like, this is the most important thing I've ever written. I was just like, you know what? And really your writing style and the stuff that you notice and all that stuff. Shay Serrano, you just released another book here. It's already a New York Times bestseller. But now I wanted to start by saying how much I appreciate the work that you've put in. And I've said this to you privately. I'm going to say it again publicly. But as a Mexican dude who came up and didn't see very many people who looked or sounded like me, it's really meant the world to be able to walk that path that you've kind of blazed.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I certainly was not the first guy to do some stuff, but I'm glad somebody is doing something with whatever. Who knows? I don't know.
The new book is Expensive Basketball. I have a copy of it here. I run into two problems though. One, okay. I just got it the other day and I haven't been able to get to all of it. And that's like the first problem. But the reason for that problem is that I lent it to my wife, and my wife doesn't like sports stuff. She likes watching the games and she likes it, but she really she's a white woman. So she likes all like the true crime stuff. And yet with your book, I've been able to like, I left it out on the table one day and she kind of started flipping through it. And I was like, babe, I need to read as much of that as I possibly can before I actually talk to Shay. And she's like, okay, hold on. And I barely got it back this morning. So I guess it's a compliment to you that like,
I've
only been able to flip through it because my wife has held it and held on to it.
She should be the one doing this interview then. She's prepared. You're not prepared, Anthony. She's prepared.
She's the doctor. Is the thing. So like she's always more prepared. She's always more professional. But no, like the parts of it that I've read so far, just again, absolutely level like the approach to it. And I kind of wanted to start by asking you this. Your writing is really unique in that you can oscillate between, great word choice and turn of phrase and all these things. And then you're also very capable of just like speaking I could hear you say shit. And I'm just kind of curious, like, how do you balance those things out? Like, how is that something that you purposefully trying to find a ratio of, or like, where does that usually come from?
I think that's a byproduct of wanting two things to happen whenever I'm writing something. Number one, I want it to sound like the way that I talk.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? There's a version of writing where you try to sound a little maybe smarter, or use words that you wouldn't normally use in an everyday conversation. You try to write like that way to present that version of yourself, right? I've never been interested in that thing. I want it to sound like if you and I were hanging out, then that's the feeling you should get when you're reading the book. So whenever I'm writing it, I like, of course, write. And then when I stop, and then I say, like, I read it out loud to see, does this sound like how I would say it if I were just talking to a person? And then if it does, then I keep it. And if it doesn't, then I like adjust it and try it again. I wanted to have that cadence to it, right? You'll notice as we're going through this conversation that there will be moments where I will like speed up really quick, just because that's how I normally talk whenever I get excited about something. But then also there's going to be a moment or two where there's going to be like 2 seconds of silence as my brain gathers the right word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want the writing to feel like that as well, because if I can do that, then it makes it a thing where nobody can go, oh, he writes like this other guy, or he sounds like this woman, or whatever, because I'm just doing the thing that is natural to me. So there's that part of it. But then the other part, the sort of harder part, is I think your job as a writer is to like figure out a way to say something in a way that hasn't been said yet.
Yeah.
And that's like a much harder thing to do, and a lot of the times I fail. But that's always what I'm in pursuit of. How do I say this without? How do I say at the end of the day, like express that sentiment without writing at the end of the day?
At the end of the day,
you want to stay away. You want to stay away from those sorts of cliches and whatever's. So when I'm writing, I'm trying to do those two things. I want it to sound like it sounds when I'm talking, and also I want it to like, let me try to find a way to say this that hasn't been said yet, and then we end up with what we end up with.
You embrace failure. Like, you embrace the fact that like there are going to be some phrases that land. You embrace the fact, like, it just, even in listening to your shows with Jason, you guys were just like, you know what? Here's a format of a podcast. We think it's going to be kind of fun, and we're going to play off of the stuff that we know, the movies that we love, and all this, and it's something that makes me laugh. And if it makes you laugh too, awesome. And if it doesn't, we're going to try to figure out why. And here's to me, this was, I laughed out loud at this. I have the excerpt here. Is it okay if I read it?
Yeah, go for it.
So this was perfect. This was from the Kobe chapter. The Lakers are down just 6 with 1:40 to go. Kobe is looking real 2006 Kobe-ish right now. He can see a comeback moment. He can see a game winner. He can see one last chance to be the hero. And it's going to take some bulldozers driven by rhinos to stop him from getting there. But rhinos who drive bulldozers are not who the Jazz have on their team. Who they have on their roster is Gordon Hayward. And
yeah, I remember writing that.
It was I was reading it, and it just like that line absolutely leveled me, because poor Gordon, I had forgotten to the extent that he struggled down the stretch of that game. That the moment that I'll always remember from that stretch was Julius Randle got away with one of the most egregious illegal screens.
Big time.
And I feel like the referee saw that it was on Gordon Hayward. It was like, that's all right.
It's fine. It's Gordon. Cool. It's Gordo. It's okay. He's not going to yell at me. He won't be the guy who
go to
yells
Boston
at me.
Anyway. So I wanna also ask. So I'm really curious how you landed on the subject matter and the players and people that you wrote about here. The title of the book is Expensive Basketball. Mm-hmm. And the notion of it kind of reminded me of the line from Jurassic Park where the guy's like, those look expensive, put those down, before you break them. And
Yeah.
like the phrasing of it and the premise of it, you know, I totally understand where you're going with. I was just kind of curious how you landed on the people and the players that you wrote about.
Okay, so once I figured out what the book was going to be, right, which is essentially I'm going to write about a bunch of different players, moments, shots, stretches of seasons or whatever that were like important in basketball because they made me feel something or they made everybody feel something, right? Like the Vince Carter's performance at the 2000 dunk contest. Like we all get excited about that. They just did a whole pregame, postgame dunk show around it before. Like it was a moment, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to find like those things. Once you start to collect those items, then I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's the collection of these things I can put together that will present a full view of like basketball as a sport, and also a full view of the range of emotions that you can feel while watching basketball. And so every chapter is like trying to do those things, right? Like I'm going to have the two defining basketball players of my lifetime as a basketball fan, Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
One guy who I absolutely adored and loved. I'm a San Antonio guy. Tim Duncan is my favorite basketball player of all time. I'm going to start the book with him. Kobe is like the guy that Tim was always measured up against.
Yeah.
Right? They were like always linked up. Who's better? Even still today, we still argue about it, right? So one guy I absolutely adored and loved. The other guy I was terrified of and I hated him because he always seemed to be like ruining my Spurs seasons. Right? So I know I'm going to start the book and end the book with those things, and that's like the beginning and the end. And now I'm just filling in the pieces of like, what were the other feelings that I had while watching basketball? Okay, I want to have a thing in here about like a team that didn't win a championship but was still culturally important to basketball. Okay, the '93 Hornets. Mm-hmm. We were all excited about the starter jackets and the hats, and they had these cool like they're important to basketball not because they were successful or because they won anything. They're important to basketball, candidly, because they were cool. They were just a cool. That's all that it was.
Completely different color palette, and
you couldn't explain it other than to say that they were cool, right? So then I'm cool. I'm gonna have that thing. Like I'm just looking to put together all of the feelings you can have while watching basketball, from like total elation to total devastation, because I think that's what makes basketball so interesting. You tune in, you never know what you're going to see, and when I'm laying everything out, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm like, okay, I have this, I have this, I have this. What did I double up on? Okay, like there was a chapter that I wrote about the 2002 Sacramento Kings, mm-hmm. that when I finished it, I was like, this is essentially the same as the Charlotte Hornets chapter. I don't need both of these. It's out of here, right? I wrote a chapter about Kevin Garnett. And when I read it, I was like, this is basically saying the same thing that the Dirk Nowitzki chapter is saying. Sorry, KG, you're out of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was doing when I was putting the book together.
It's I was telling you before we went live, I love a book that I don't necessarily have to read in order. Would you say that it's a flip through book, or do you think there's an order that this needs to be like? Do you need to go page by page by page by page?
No, I think you can bounce around in it. One chapter is not dependent on the other, but when you finish it, you're gonna go, oh, I see why these are all in this book. I see how they're all connected, but I didn't need to read the like Jordan chapter to get to the Vince Carter chapter. Those are separate things.
Yeah, the Jordan chapter, and the Jordan excerpts throughout it. It's just wild that the true reading, the correct reading of this guy is just he's a maniacal sociopath that like happened to play basketball. Like it's just so crazy. In the Kobe chapter, you had mentioned how his last game was playing alongside at the exact same time as the Warriors, who were going for 73 wins, and that the Bulls got to 72 in the first place because people wondered whether or not Michael still had it, after coming back from his hiatus in the prior playoffs. And, they have NBC brought Michael Jordan back for their telecast now. And the first thing we hear Michael say is how if there was a pill he could take to go back and prove that he's better than all these dudes.
Yeah.
It's the most Michael thing. I was, because you're talking about, this is a book about like your relationship to basketball to this point. What do you think it is about basketball specifically that brings that out of you? Because there are people who are passionate about football. There are people who are passionate about basketball, and baseball is this, it's America's pastime, all this stuff. But I do feel like the people, and I might be biased because of my own anecdotal evidence here, but the people who are passionate about basketball, to me, find the most unique and creative ways to talk about the sport. And it's almost romanticized more by, is there something that you can think of with basketball that brings that brings that out of the people who love the sport the way that they do?
I think the advantage that basketball has with regard to this particular topic, when measured up against baseball and football specifically, is that with basketball, that's the only sport where if you have the best guy, that guy is going to affect the most amount of the game, right? Like we were just watching the World Series, and then the Dodgers have Ohtani, right? But the Blue Jays were effectively able to like remove him from a part of the game just by not throwing the ball to him. We're just not gonna let him try to hit. He's not gonna get, like, that's a thing you can do in baseball. In football, like Patrick Mahomes only plays on one side of the football. He doesn't play on the other side. He doesn't play linebacker. Like he's out there when he's out there, and he's not when he's not. With basketball, it's just the same guys doing everything. And because there's only 5 of them, if you've got one really, really good one, you're going to be like, okay. And so because of that, you develop a relationship with the players that's, I think, slightly different than the relationship you have with the other sports. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure Kobe's going to come up a bunch here. Like, when you have Kobe Bryant on your team, you have Kobe Bryant on your team. You know what I mean? He's going to guard the best player, and he's going to score all of the points on the other side. Like, he's going to do all of the stuff. And baseball, football, they can't do that.
There's like an omnipresence about NBA superstars, right? That like we're watching the game last night between the Lakers and the Spurs, and even though Wemby had foul trouble, even when he was on the sideline, they're cutting to him all the time. They're waiting for like, when's he going to get back into the game? When's he going to do this? Poor Jake LaRavia, like, still won't shoot a layup. Right. Like, I think during halftime, warm-ups and stuff, he was getting ready to shoot a layup and was still hesitating because he thought Wemby might walk out onto his side of the court. And yeah, I love the notion. I also think too, there's an artistry about basketball that, like, you do have, these superstars, and they can all dominate the game in the way that NBA superstars do, but they all do it so differently. The way that Shaq dominated a game was very different from how LeBron dominated a game, which was how very, very different from how Michael did and how Kareem did and all these guys. And I think
that's a really good point.
Yeah, that creativity that is kind of inherent to basketball because of how omnipresent those guys are is pretty unique. And I really think, like, there's a chapter on Iverson in your book as well, and I don't want to give away too much of it. But to me, like, Iverson, is there any way to describe to, like, young people how cool Iverson was? Like, is that something that you kind of struggled with? Because to me, he didn't win a championship. He won an MVP. His stats don't exactly like jump off of the page but he has to be, he's a fabric of that era of basketball. He's part of the fabric of that era of basketball in ways that, like, you could even argue that in terms of cultural imprint, Iverson might not have had a rival, he
definitely didn't.
Yeah. And I don't even know how I would explain that to, like, my kids when they start asking about basketball. Is that something that you kind of ran into?
That's a conversation that you can't have with, like, a anybody who's under 15 years old. Because prior to then is when like cool is like kind of important, but it's not the most important thing, right? So it's hard to explain to like a 9-year-old that the part of the reason Allen Iverson was so impactful was because he wore a shooting sleeve. Like you can say those words, it doesn't mean anything at all because the kid's not going to understand the subtext of that conversation. Once they start to get older, and you can just be like, when you can just say the phrase, "This was the coolest basketball player who ever lived." Every single thing he did felt cool.
Yeah.
Like I went and watched him. I was living in Houston at the time. I had never seen him in person, and I was like, I want to go see Allen Iverson in person. I want to see what it looks like. I know what it looks like on TV. I want to see him do the crossover in person. I want to see him shoot a free throw in person, whatever. And so we got to the game. We went really early, and we snuck down to the court for like shooting practice. And he walked out of the like tunnel and was just sort of standing on the sideline by the 3-point area, like getting loose. And we're just watching him standing there. That's all he's doing. He's not dribbling a basketball, or he's like having a conversation with somebody. And he just like had this glow around him in a way that no other player on the court did. And if it is hard to explain that to somebody. I think the closest you can get is you can show somebody there's a great clip at one of the All-Star games. The All-Star game when Iverson shaved his braids off for the first time. And there's a clip of him walking into the locker room and then showing everybody that his braids were gone. And all of the other players, these are the most popular basketball players on the planet, right? These are the superstars of the league. He walks in and shows them his haircut, and they all lose their fucking minds. They're screaming and jumping and like that. Like that's the gravity that Allen Iverson had. Was he changed his hair?
Yeah.
And the most popular basketball players on the planet reacted like children. And like that's who he was. That's why he was so. That's like indicative of how incredible he was as a person, as a player.
Yeah, the thing that I'll always and really it's why I'm happy that he's having this kind of the current chapter of his life that he's in right now, right? He's talked about sobriety and he's talked about, kind of growing and getting healthier that way. And I'm happy that we've arrived here because he celebrates the sport in ways that I
He's
wish
really good
a
about
lot
that,
of
yeah.
his peers do or would. And that was the thing that, when Kobe had retired, he had no problem saying like, dude, the stuff that this guy is doing is fucking insane. Like this,
Yeah.
and it's really kind of rare. I like that, we're more players are showing more interest in doing that. Like I think the Amazon Prime like panel that they have there is a little bit more interested
so good.
in. Yeah.
So good.
And I'm happy that we're kind of getting back to celebrating the sport. You had mentioned, being a Spurs fan, and the book is again, a series of chapters that kind of help tell your why you're passionate about the sport to this point. And I'm curious, like, do you have plans to write another one here? Because I would imagine in 10, 15, 20 years or so, we'll probably get a Wemby chapter, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I have not thought about another one. This one took me 4 years to write, and it just came out 10 minutes ago. So I'm not in a super big hurry to
Yeah.
start
You just
writing another
you just
one.
ran a marathon. You want to go for a jog?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it feels like. But yeah, Wemby is incredible. At some point, I will probably write something about him. But it would be nice. It would be nice if I got to write that thing in 16 years from now, and he plays 19 seasons for the Spurs and he wins 5 championships, and I get to that would be fun to do, right? I wrote a thing for him before his first season. I wrote it was a cover of Slam magazine. I wrote the Wemby story for that, and I'm like, okay, that's gonna be my Wemby thing for the start of his career. I'm gonna wait until the end of his career because for so long I didn't write about Tim Duncan until we were getting to the end of the days, and I was like, now I know what to write and I know what to feel, and I'm ready. I'm not ready yet for Wemby.
This era of basketball is kind of interesting in that there are, I would argue, some of the most talented players that the sport has ever seen. And the basketball itself, I would argue, is being played at a level higher than we have maybe ever seen before. And yet I don't know that the players quite resonate in the ways that some of the players and people that you wrote about in your book do. Do you agree with that assessment? And if not, cool. If you do, though, like, I'd be curious for your thoughts as to maybe why.
I think that what you're feeling is being an old man. That's what I think you're feeling.
You might be right. I was just gonna say maybe I'm just old.
I think that's what it is because I actually learned about a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, the book that I wrote prior to this one was about rap. And as I was like doing the process of figuring out what's going to go into that book and figuring out what fits, what doesn't fit, whatever, I found myself sort of unwittingly drifting over and over again back to like the same 7 years, like a 7-year stretch where I was like, oh, Busta Rhymes when he put out the Dangerous video, like that was fun. Oh, Missy Elliott when she did, it was like the same period. And I'm like, why do I keep drifting back here? There's so much other great stuff. I wanted to know why, and so I started digging around into it. And then I found like this academic paper that explained like 14 years old is the magic age for a person. Like that's when like pop culture imprints itself onto somebody in the most profound way, in a way that you would never ever forget. And that's why the stuff that you discovered when you were 14-ish means so much to you. It's why right now, right here next to me, I have a Reggie Miller signed basketball card, because he was the guy who I found like at that age, and I fell in love with him, and I was like, I'm just gonna care about this guy forever, right? It wasn't because he was like this incredible basketball player. Like I didn't understand. You don't understand that as a kid. All that you know is you looked at this guy doing something and you went like, oh, that means something to me. I watched the movie Mortal Kombat in the movie theater, and I was like, this means something to me. It like sticks with you. And that only happens for like a couple of years during that time period. As you get older, you don't connect with it the same way. If you can imagine 14-year-old Anthony meeting like Nick Van Exel. I don't know if you're like a lifelong Lakers fan. Let's assume.
Oh no, it's funny that you use Nick Van Exel as the example. There's a clip of me at like 7 years old doing like going back down the court doing the
yeah. Right. So like a Nick Van Exel, like an Eddie Jones type, or like imagine like a 14-year-old Anthony meeting that person versus like today, if you were to meet Luka, you'd be like, oh, this is cool. I'm gonna get a picture on and post it on Instagram, but it wouldn't feel the same. Even though Luka's a much bigger star and a much better basketball player, it just wouldn't feel the same because you're an adult and you have a wife and a kid and a mortgage and whatever. And I think it's more that than the other thing, because like I have kids now who I'm watching experience all of this stuff, and they like care about these things desperately, the same sort of way that we did when we were kids.
So I'm washed. Cool.
You are washed. We both are. It's fine. It's fine. It's part of it.
No, you're absolutely right though, because like in covering the Lakers and going to, I think part of it is also skewed because it's work. Also, like talking to some of these guys occasionally is work. So whereas when I was a kid, I was just a fan. I was just, there was no, I didn't watch Allen Iverson play or watch Kobe Bryant play and be like, all right, I got to turn this into content. It's
right.
I think
just
that's probably
joy.
Playing a part in it too. I honestly think that might be kind of impacting where we're at with this current generation, right? Where I don't think people do get to just like, if Iverson was to come along now, I don't know that he would just be celebrated for being cool. People would have to have a take on Iverson and record a podcast or record a YouTube show saying how well actually Iverson is this and well actually Iverson is that. And I think that is really like the need to have a take, and then the desire for that take to be correct has really kind of taken away from some of the experience of just being a fan. I'm always kind of jealous of my friends who just get to watch this shit, and and then they turn around, they're like, well, they're jealous of the fact that I get to go to games for a living or whatever. And here we are. Let's talk.
We should get back to when I was in high school, like Slam magazine would come out, and it would be like Scoop Jackson telling you about Stephon Marbury or whatever, and you're
Yeah.
like, well, now I care about Stephon Marbury. We should just have Scoop Jackson should be in charge of telling everybody what to care about and what not to care about. He should be the only guy allowed to do that.
He did
Everybody
have a
else,
really
shut up.
good. He had like great taste of like what
Great
was.
taste.
Yeah.
Great taste.
All right. I want to, if it's okay, I want to, wrap on the Spurs Lakers game that just happened last night.
I didn't watch it. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know anything about that. I was actually rewatching the 2003 Western Conference semifinals against the Lakers and Spurs. We can talk about that if you want to talk about that. I didn't watch last night's game.
You want to talk about the other series when Kobe won more often than against that? But no, that game was fascinating because I think, and to a certain extent, rightly so, there's been a push to kind of anoint Wemby as potentially the best player in the sport. And he's definitely the best defensive player in the sport. And we are heading towards a time where it's like he might be the best defensive player I've ever seen. It's really rare that NBA players who have all at some point in their lives been the best player on almost every team that they've played on. It's really rare to see a collective group of them all decide, nope, we're not scoring at the rim tonight because of one specific dude. So that was like Wemby wiping a shot type off of the map is kind of wild to watch. I also think though that like from a defending Wemby standpoint, now he didn't have Fox and he didn't have Harper, and I think those guys help him quite a bit. But I do kind of wonder with Wemby if the NBA has kind of stumbled into an approach with him where they'll have somebody in front of him and then they'll have a smaller guy behind him, and they basically use the way that referees call games to their advantage, where small players are allowed to be more physical than big players are kind of allowed to. Do you think that is a sustainable approach there, or do you think this is just kind of a blip on the radar here and eventually Wemby will figure this out?
So I think that that's the crossroads isn't the right word, but I think that's where we are with him in his career right now, because all of this happens with all of the greats, right? Especially early on in their career, they come in, they do something that we've never seen before, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, this is incredible!" And then some coach comes up with like a way to try to stop it, and then that young player is sort of flummoxed for a little bit because they're now looking at a defense that they've never seen before, and they have to figure out how to beat that. And if they figure out how to beat that, then they continue on their progression toward this greatness. And if they don't, then they don't, right? An easy example to say, as soon as you start talking about, we're going to put a player in the front, we're going to put a player in the back, and then we're just going to sort of beat up on them a little bit and see what the referees do. Like the easiest line to draw is like, that's literally the game plan for Shaq when he started being like, I'm Shaq now, right? He shows up in Orlando, young Shaq. He's big, he's fast, he's strong, but he wasn't ready for that thing yet. It was like they started doing it, and he was like, "Uh-oh, I don't know how to solve this particular problem yet."
Yeah.
And then he goes to LA. He gets a little bit bigger. He gets a little bit stronger. He gets a little bit smarter. He has now at this point played like 100 games where people are doing that to him, and he's like, "Oh, I just got to do this." And then he went on a 3-year stretch where he was the most dominant basketball player who ever lived. And you could put 5 guys on him. There's like all those great pictures of like the New Jersey Nets hanging off of him.
Yeah.
And he's just like, nothing. Right. So he
reminded
figures
me
it out.
Matrix.
Yeah.
Remember with that one? Well, everybody remembers it. But when Keanu Reeves is in the middle, it was against the Kings because they used to have like just 5 guys who just like envelope.
Yeah, just.
And then you would hear like in the movie, you would hear like, and Keanu Reeves just flies straight up, and that was Shaq like dunking, and all the Sacramento Kings and various people who lived in Sacramento just started flying all over.
Yeah, that's the Matrix 2. But yeah, so I was actually I was at lunch earlier today with my cousin talking about this exact thing of like, here's what the teams have over just the last 2 games. It was like somebody went, oh, let's just guard them with a lot of guys and see what happens. and he didn't know what to do. He's just like, oh, this is a new thing. I'm certain he'll figure it out. But right now, this is like a thing he has to go through, and we have to watch him figure out. The Joker went through it. If we're looking for like a modern player, SGA went through it, and he has, this is what happens when if you want to be on this level. This thing happens to you, and now you got to prove that you can handle it, and just start picking apart defenses. And I'm certain that he's going to do it, though. I'm not worried about it at all.
I wouldn't be either. I think, and also when you have a De'Aaron Fox available, when you have a Dylan Harper available, it makes it difficult to employ that strategy without giving up a zillion wide open shots. So I think that's also going to help him as well. But yeah, I think, like to your point, there's a certain stratosphere that superstars reach that where like an entire league spends hours and hours and hours and hours trying to devise a strategy specifically to use against that guy. And the fact that Wemby is already there is kind of nuts.
3 years in. We're 3 years in. That's great. That's great.
Well, Shay, this has been an absolute blast. Your book, Expensive Basketball, is, like I said, absolutely incredible. As is all of your work. And like I said, I just, your ability to, like you talking to me right now, I could read that conversation. And that's a real gift. And that's, I'm trying to encapsulate that. I'm not a very good writer, so you're better at it than I am. And I'm trying to explain what I find unique about your writing. And it's all there in that book. Is there anything about it that you want to say before we get you out of here?
No, I think I'm very proud of the way that the book turned out. I really hope people read it and like it. It has been funny to see how many times I have been asked about the Lakers. And then this, I assumed when we come on here, we were just going to spend the whole time talking about it. This is the least amount of the Lakers I've talked about on any of the shows that I did, which is very funny to me. But no, I just want people to get the book and put the book by your toilet. That's the best real estate for a book. Yeah. It's like beachfront Hawaii real estate for books. And then when you go in there, take a look at a chapter or two, and if you laugh, keep reading, and if you don't, then throw the book in the trash. Either way, doesn't matter.
I'm telling you, I laughed plenty. Poor Gordon Hayward. Shouts to that guy.
Poor Gordon Hayward.
No, best of luck. Congratulations. It's already a New York Times bestseller. That's 5
we
of them
did
now,
it.
right for you. Like that's
5 of them things, Anthony. Like my boy Timmy, the only basketball player ever with 5 championships. Nobody else has ever done it.
And certainly of his era, right? There was nobody else
that
none of his contemporaries won 5. This has been an absolute blast, man. I really appreciate you hopping on, and best of luck on everything here moving forward. And hopefully we'll be able to bring you back on here occasionally to actually talk about, the Spurs and the Lakers. Cause I don't think either team is going anywhere anytime soon.
I hope not. And I'm going to come on, but I make this promise to you. I will only come on after Spurs Lakers games when the Spurs win. I would never come on after they lose. This is the only one. But when they win, shoot me an email.
I feel like I was nice. I didn't talk that much shit,
No, you were fine. You were perfectly pleasant.
My favorite compliment that I'll get sometimes is you're the only decent Lakers fan I know, and I'll take that. I'll take that one.
Yeah, you're first place right now.
All right, Expensive Basketball by Shea Serrano. It is excellent. I also just got off of the air. I just recorded an episode with Jason Concepcion. You guys are working to bring back 6 trophies in some iteration. So best of luck with that as a project as well. And I can't wait for that to come back. It's a truly unique NBA podcast, which you don't get to say very often. So hopefully that comes back here soon, and we will be able to talk to you sometime soon as well.
All right. Later.
Bye, everyone.